Today, we're doing a device review on the X3 from Ottobock. I remember when I first lost my leg trying to do some research on prosthetics and you know, like I've talked about, Googling Google images and seeing what exists out there and seeing the X3 and thinking like, wow, that thing's waterproof and it could go upstairs step over step. That's incredible. That's the knee that I want. And I didn't end up being able to get it until 11 years, 10 years after my amputation. But now it is my daily driver. It's what I wear all the time. And we're gonna break it down, go through some of my modes and how I've got those set up. But to start, X3 is a K3, K4. It's really in that K4 range of devices. You know, this is a high activity knee that is able to do a lot of different things in a lot of different environments and handle it in a safe way. X3 can support up to 330 pounds and weighs just 3.77 pounds. It has a carbon frame, and so that helps keep the weight down quite a bit, and it also has a cover. I'll be showing the carbon frame in the beginning of the video and then the rest of the video with the cover on. X3 is an L5999 code, so it makes it pretty difficult to get it reimbursed in the United States. You know, a lot of people that have this knee are workman's comp and vets, which, you know, that's awesome, good for them. But I think that this type of technology could be more readily available to the community as a whole, and we would benefit from it. It is frustrating to have it be coded there, but it also, you know, understanding the back end of R&D and how much went into this knee and into X4 and everything else and all of their technology, I understand why it is what it is. I just wish that it was, you know, a little bit more readily available and easier to get reimbursed with insurances so that more users could benefit from it. One thing that is very unique to Ottobock knees in general, Kenevo, X4, I'm not sure if C-Leg has this now, but definitely X3 and Genium, we need the Axon pylon connector. So this has a wire in there because it has a ground reaction force so that it can tell when the knee has weight on it. So in order to use this knee, you have to use one of these pylons. And then it also has to be torqued to the correct level. So if your knee ever locks up, if you wear one of these knees and your knee locks up on you, first thing is take it to the prosthetist, because it probably is just that the bolts are torqued too tight around this Axon pylon. I'll be demoing X3 with the Taleo and a black heel wedge in my Taleo today. Okay, we've got the knee here without the cover on. We're just going to do a quick cover installation. So I've got my cover here, and all that it does is snap over the front like so. You just want to line the front, the top up, and it clicks in nice. And then you just pull these snaps so that they click in, and then you give them a push. Get the bottom one here. And now you're ready to go with the cover on. Now I've got the cover off here, and we'll show the flexion lock, which I use all the time, which is basically you hold the knee for 3 seconds, weighted, and it locks out. Now I can use it to relax, and then as soon as you move your weight, shift your weight, it releases. Starting in basic mode, basic walking here on flat ground, and with the Taleo underneath, you can see I get a nice comfortable heel strike every time, and the knee isn't getting too far out in front of me or taking too long of a stride. It matches my other side really well. But the thing that you get out of basic mode is stance knee flexion, which gives me that shock absorption. So when I land, you see here I have a little bit of flexion between my socket and my knee, creating a softer, more comfortable heel strike, rather than landing at full extension like we'll show a little bit later in the video. Basic walking, very comfortable. And on to hills and inclines. You know, going up hills and inclines is just not comfortable on most MPKs because you are just swinging out in front of you. The knee does a great job of getting the foot out in front of me and extending in time, but then I'm just, you know, doing a long lever at my hip and my back to really pull myself over and get to my next step. And then coming down, you're just yielding the knee like any other MPK, and it does a great job of getting that foot out in front of you to feel safe and comfortable. Now on the stair ascent, the X3 is capable of going upstairs step over step. It takes a little practice. We're going to try to break it down a little bit of how you get that knee to go into that function, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, the smoother it gets. So here we are, and first thing you want to do is just stand on the stairs and just practice trying to slide a piece of paper out of underneath your toe. And you can see when I get this slide the right way, I push my knee to extension and then flick that toe back. You can see in the beginning there that knee was getting loose and flipping, and then once you start to feel that looseness of it lifting a little bit, then you can whip your hip up and step up onto the next step. And so as you do that more and more, the harder you whip back, the more that knee is going to kick back and give you flexion clearance and then up. And so you get more subtle and it looks more subtle and a lot easier as you do it more subtly too. And so it just takes practice, but as you do it, your hip strengthens and you get more comfortable with it. You get more strong lifting yourself up those stairs. And you can see I still always prefer to be next to a railing really, and use that railing going up and down. And you see the yielding of the knee now is really basic, but comfortable and safe and nice. I'm not doing any hard slamming on my sound side, but stair ascent takes practice, but I think that it's worth it for me. It's benefited me. We'll start here pulling out my cockpit app, and I will switch over to my carrying loads mode. So my carrying loads mode just changes walking a little bit. As you can see, I'm sampling carrying a load. So typically you wouldn't be able to see your feet if you were carrying a load, and so this setting allows the foot to get out in front of me faster, and I take a little bit of a shorter step with it, and then I also am walking with no stance knee flexion. So you can see right there, this knee is fully locked out at heel strike, so now I'm pulling all over fully, a little bit harder heel strike, but it's safe, especially in times when I'm carrying weight and I can't see my feet. It makes it a lot easier for me to just feel comfortable and know, oh, my foot's there and it's safe. The ice lock is really just a break knee, which means I'm going to get a little goofy here trying to make it wiggle. But it really just means that if the knee is weighted, it's locked out. So I use this a lot in the summer and the winter in Utah. It's kind of scary going into the gas station or grocery store in the winter with wet shoes. So I'll put it on in there, or on inclines and things like that, which I'll show in a minute. But it is super handy to have just a break knee function that I can switch to quickly through my app. And another mode I have is crouching, which I don't use too often because it changes my walking, makes it a little bit more sketchy, I guess, unsafe, and I can get a crouch enough in my basic mode. So now we'll show, here's a steeper incline, and you can see the grass is wet, and honestly I'm trying to make it slip a little bit just to show when I would use my ice lock. But you can see I'm into the ice lock, and so that knee is not going to let me yield it down. So it's more of a step two, but if I'm out like doing a bid on a deck and walking on side of a rocky hill or something, this is really safe because I know it's going to support me. And then my other mode is just a flex standing mode. So, I use the flexion lock, but I also have flex standing where you can lock it in there and then it's not going to release at all unless you go back into the app, which is, kind of frustrating, but you could use a toe tap mode to get out of there if you really wanted to. But it is nice to have. So that's a base rundown of X3 and how I have my modes set up. Again, I like to set my modes up into things that I'm going to do every day. So that's why I have an ice lock. That's why I have a carrying loads mode instead of maybe like a snowboard mode and a tennis mode, because if I'm going to go snowboard, I'm going to put my snowboard leg on. I'm not going to wear this knee that the manufacturer recommends. The price tag is 120 grand. I'm not going to wear this thing snowboarding. I don't care if it could get wet. I don't care if it is the most robust, durable thing. I don't want to take it up there. So that's why I don't have a snowboard mode set into my modes. I have carrying loads because realistically, I'll be walking around the house carrying a load and need that long before I ever need to switch into my snowboard mode. I really like the look of this knee with the cover on and with the cover off. I never really wear it with the cover off, but with the cover on, I've always kind of joked that it looks like Batman's leg, and I like that. Batman is my favorite superhero, so I'm all for that. I like the way it looks. I do, it is difficult to get it on and off. Those clips in the back are difficult to kind of snap and especially take off with the knee on. And so that's a little frustrating. They've obviously improved that with X4, so that's great. But still a little bit frustrating on X3 to have those clips that you can't really get access to as a user. X3 does have a like triple toe tap move, so you can bounce on the toe 3 times and that will switch the mode instead of having to pull out the app. So what you do is you set up a backup mode. So for me, how mine's set up, I never use it, but I have it set up so that if I bounce on my toe 3 times, it goes into my flex standing, and then I'm locked in that standing, and then I theoretically could be able to bounce on my toe 3 times and go back to walking without ever having to pull my app out. But for me, and for a lot of people I've talked to, it's very difficult to get that smooth and get it to work every single time. And so I just don't use it. That's why I don't use my flex standing as much either, because I have to pull out the app. I'd rather just use my flexion lock that I can lock, and then once I release, it's unlocked, and make things a little bit smoother. But it does have that toe tap function. If you want to practice that thing and get really good at it, it probably would be beneficial. I should. X3 comes with an induction charger that is similar to the standard Genium, of just a magnetic clip plug that clips on there. And the battery lasts for about 5 days, and that is very true. I wear it down all the time, and it is about 5 days consistently. You do get maybe it's a 24-hour, no, just a 10. I think you just get a 10-hour warning and a 5-hour warning. So at 10 hours, it buzzes a ton and lets me know like, hey, we need to plug this in tonight. And really, you should be plugging your knee in every night. I have a bad habit of just letting it do its thing. But if you are like me and you forget to plug it in every night, it does give you some warnings to let you know like, hey, I'm running low and I'm gonna die soon. And if it does die, then it just goes into a full stiff yielding mode, which isn't the most comfortable, but makes it safe to ambulate on and around until you can get a charge. X3 has just been added to the Connect Go Pro app. So as a practitioner clinician, it's much easier to set this knee up through Connect Go Pro than having to get your laptop out, plug your dongle in, and do all of the Xsoft stuff. Through Connect Go Pro, you just can pull out your app and do it all on the app, just like on a lot of other knees, and just make it a lot simpler and easier to navigate through the setup. I really think that this knee is who it's specified for, that high activity AK user that doesn't want to worry about damaging it or creating issues by maybe being a little bit too much. And I beat this thing up pretty well, and it keeps up with me every day, and it is a very consistent knee. I always know how it's going to function, and the more that I've used it over the last 2 years, the more intuitive I've gotten with it and feel really comfortable in a lot of different situations. I've been able to set up my modes to be really custom. So I really like this thing. I like it enough to wear it as my daily driver. Obviously, some of the downsides are the cost and the reimbursement. It's number one roadblock for most people. Other than that, it could be a little bit much for somebody that's in that low K3 or K2 category. Obviously, K2 is like, you're not going to be able to benefit from this. But even that low K3, it's a great knee, but I think that starting on something like maybe a Dyneon or even a C-leg or something comparable would help you understand MPKs a little bit more, and then be able to set up modes like I have in this or something like that. I don't know if this is necessarily the end-all be-all for everyone, but it is a great knee, and it's great for that high-activity user. If you have experience with X3, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear how you set your modes up, and love to hear how you make it custom for you. If you'd like more information on X3, check out Ottobock's website. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Thank you.